Hello, Mount Dora. I'm Rob English, the president of the Mount Dora Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're excited to be bringing you another in our series of veteran videos. I'm here today with Chuck McAdoo, and he's just been sharing with me. It's really exciting, and you'll hear more about Chuck soon. But he actually retired from the Navy as chief pharmacist mate, and he's got some really interesting stories. But first of all, we'll start with, you grew up where, Chuck?
In Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Okay, great.
And that was the hometown of Jimmy Stewart, who is a good friend of mine.
No kidding. What a great story.
Right.
Okay, now what year did you go into the service, Chuck?
1942.
1942.
That's whenever I graduated from high school. The day I graduated.
So that would have been May or June of...
May.
Okay,
May.
May of 42.
Right.
Okay.
The next day after I graduated, I went to Pittsburgh and joined the Navy.
All right. And where did you do boot camp at?
Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay, beautiful there.
But I was only there for about 3 weeks, and I found out that I was one of the earliest ones shipped out to Port Hueneme in California. 2 days after that, I was aboard the USS Nassau, where I spent 3.5 years.
They were fast-tracking you during that time.
Yes,
yes
very
sir.
much.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, obviously then you were in the Pacific.
Right.
Okay, and you spent the entire time aboard that ship.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Tell us a little bit about some of your experiences during your time in the service and aboard the ship. I'm sure you've got some interesting stories.
Well, yeah, I can think of a lot of them. We were with Fleet Air Wing 8, Admiral Nimitz, who was usually the admiral in charge of our whole patrol. And there'd be maybe 300 or 400 ships of us out at one time on a mission.
Yes, sir.
And you'd look around and you'd see them all in a single line. Then you look next 5 minutes later, they're all just zigzagging back and forth to keep the Japanese from, deciding to sink 4 or 5 of us all at once.
Yes, sir.
But shortly after the one trip down to the Marshall Islands, our sister ship was called the USS Liscum Bay.
Okay.
And any with the name of Bay on the end was made by Kaiser shipyards, and we called them the Kaiser coffins.
Uh-oh.
Well, it was hit by an aerial bomb, and within 2 minutes it was completely underwater, and we only had about, I think, 200 survivors out of the 600 crew members.
Wow.
And that was the thing that really sticks in my mind more than anything, was seeing that happen, you know. And then I found out after that several guys that I knew was aboard the Arizona when it got sunk in Pearl Harbor Day. And of course, I always wanted to go back and see that memorial,
yes, sir.
Which I did later on.
Good. What year did you go back? Just curious.
I went back, well, I wouldn't believe it, I didn't get back until 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Well, 7 years ago, but you finally made it back.
I finally made it
yes,
back.
Sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you were on the ship till the end of the war, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So, and you continue to move further, obviously. Tell me, were you actually involved in any of the battles that we've read about, some of the historic battles?
Yes, and I was going to bring the book, the paper about it, and I don't have it with me,
okay,
and my mind is starting to forget things like that, but we were in 8 different battles.
Okay.
And we had the Asiatic Pacific ribbons with 8 stars in it, which indicates each one was a battle that we were in.
Yes, sir.
We were in everything from the Marshall Islands, the Gilbert Islands, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, the Philippines, and I think that was the last one, I'm not sure.
Yes, sir.
But we were in the Yellow Sea within seeing distance of Japan. Whatever the war was
you were in sight of land.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Oh, yes, yes.
I forget what the distance is that you can see, but that's close.
That was close.
That's very close. I'm here to tell you. Okay, out of all of those battles that you just referenced, which one is the one that sticks in mind most after all these years? There's got to be one.
I would say probably Iwo Jima.
Yes, sir.
Whenever we first got there, we would be in this task force. And whenever we'd get there the night before, we would start bombing the island. And you could look over and you could see the island over there, and you could see trees and all kind of vegetation. Then the bombing started about dark time. The next morning, and there we waking up, you looked over, you couldn't see a tree or anything. It's just like a flat like this table. It was just all bombed out. Mm-hmm. But it didn't bomb the enemies out. They were still there.
They were still in the bunkers.
They were still there.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's after the bombing is when the Marines went ashore. Then.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. All right. Did you ever go ashore there?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was close to it.
Yes, sir.
They had sent a message out to the ships that they wanted any pharmacist mate that would volunteer to go ashore with the Marines. All of my guys, I had, I think, 9 of them in my division. We all volunteered. None of us was called.
No, that's too bad.
And
yeah. Well, Iwo Jima is one of the ones that's probably referenced tremendously high on the list of the battles in the Pacific. You know, with the historic flag, you know, that we mounted at the top, that you've seen pictures everywhere that just, you know, marks all of the devastation that we caused, but it was part of winning the war.
Right.
And the Pacific, it's amazing because the Pacific is where it started with the bombing.
Right,
obviously at Pearl Harbor that you said, yeah. Okay, so you got out then, and your career took you to St. Petersburg. You were sharing with me earlier, or maybe it wasn't your career. That's where you retired, or were you working in St. Petersburg?
No, I was working in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so then you retired to St. Petersburg.
I retired to St. Petersburg.
Yeah,
right.
I got to tell you, this is a great story that he shared with me just a few minutes ago before we started the video. His high school sweetheart, which was Pennsylvania, correct? Right. His high school sweetheart and Chuck hooked up back in 2009. After all those years, he said he kept a picture of her in his wallet all that time. And when his wife passed away, he called the chamber here, the Mount Dora Chamber, to see if they could help him find her. And we did. And then they got married and living happily ever after right here in Mount Dora. So see what the chamber does beyond what most of you even can imagine what we do for people. We bring people together in very, very happy lives. Chuck, in closing, what would you like to share that would stick with the audience as they see this about your service or just, you know, the military in general?
Well, excuse me. If I had it to do over again, I would have done the same thing. With one exception, I left Rosella knew what my feelings were towards her before I went in the service. And I wouldn't have had to go through 78 years to find her. But other than that, whenever I finally did find her and come up to Mount Dora, the first thing I thought was, our little town here is a lot like Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a very small town. It's no hustle and bustle, and we love the territory. We love the trees and the water and stuff like that. And I just couldn't think of a better place to live than Mount Dora.
Great. We're glad you're here. All right, and you're going to be joining us for the breakfast coming up in a couple of weeks. Great. And you need to bring her, your wife, Rosella. And listen, guys, I'm going to close with every one of these videos with this statement. Chuck and all the other veterans that are out there are the reason that we're able to wave the flag above so many venues, including right outside here at the chamber. So when the flag is up and the national anthem is sung, please stand. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with freedom. And freedom is valuable, and freedom needs to be respected for all of the men and women who have served and allowed us that freedom. Chuck, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing more from you at the breakfast. Thank you.